Yonkers. Now, I marched in New York City on Saturday, and then that was a crazy day. Like, to get up, go down, walk a few miles, bring somebody up, then I streamed the Wednesday game that night. Then I finally went to the bar like 10:30.
10:30.
Until this guy was like about to pass out, so I had to bring him home. So that kind of sort of that. Then Sunday morning on St. Patrick's Day, I went and videoed Gaelic football at like 8 in the morning. Then I went to get lunch. And then I came back that night and was passed out. Because I was tired. Not much drinking before you get very empty. Okay, good news. We can test this. Oh, that's like right here. Yeah, I'm just gonna use it to see the levels are really good. Let's see that.
Hello, hello, hello.
Check that you can hear. One second, I'll get you.
We don't have any seats.
Are you serious? I don't see anybody here. What's missing? 1, 2, 6?
Three seats.
3 seats? Oh, I see one. Does it look like this?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it was telling me that they use them.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of March 19th, 2024. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Debbie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Lindsay Jackson. Here. Commissioner Josh Cohn.
Here.
Commissioner Emily Hurd.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Klein.
Here.
Acting Commissioner Frank Ferrara.
Here.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Adoption of minutes from February 13th. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Items of, before that, public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have any comments from our vast audience? Anybody on Facebook?
There's something I forgot to turn my phone on. I'll check in just a sec. Well, come back to it. I'll figure it out in a sec.
Items of business, resolution authorizing contract for Pond Lake,
Could you bring us to the Facebook, please?
which we do every year, Pond Lake proposal, to inspect, test, treat, et cetera, for bacteria and Phragmites. This is, as I say, something we do every year. The price is $5,473. Are any comments? If not, may I have a motion on a second?
Motion. Second?
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes.
Commissioner Klein.
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Ferrara.
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you. A resolution authorizing the commission to purchase a drone with software and training. This is done with a grant. Debbie, do you want to just say what this is about?
Yes, due to the increase in shark activity last year, the New York State Parks Department created a grant program for communities on the shore that we could apply for a drone that would be used in safety and patrols. We applied for that grant and received it, and this is pursuant to the grant, which all the purchasing has to be done by the end of March. So we're asking for the amount not to exceed the amount of the grant. It's 100% reimbursement. Russell Gold has thoroughly researched drones, has made his selection that meets the standards set out by the grant, and we're proceeding through with the acquisition of training and software and the unit itself.
Russ, any comment from you? Mr. Researcher?
Overstating a little bit, but yes, I did make my selection. I went through the ones that were recommended by the state. There was a list of things, and I went through them all. I thought this was the most cost-effective and also would have all the features that we were looking for.
Josh, you want to say something?
Yes, we heard from a neighbor of the park objecting to a drone. They make noise. This provides for videography, videography of beachgoers and parkgoers, and some may feel that it's invasive of privacy. We don't have sharks in Long Island Sound, or at least not proximate to us. So certainly the purpose of the grant program is lost on us. So my suggestion is that we not pursue this.
Any other comment?
Yeah, listen, I think, with due respect, I think it's a great opportunity, but I do agree with Mayor Cohen, and I came here with a question for our counsel, Jeff Binder. If there's protocols, if there are protocols that the state recommends putting in place, because I see that there's videography, there's storage capacity, and that is inevitably, at the wrong time, going to lead to a difficult moment that we're best prepared for if we're gonna go forward with this. So I'm just wondering if we're, if there are state recommended protocols, or if there's something we can do to put this in place. But I think it's a great opportunity that we shouldn't miss.
All right, let me try to unpack some of those issues. Number one, if we're gonna be flying a drone, the person who's flying the drone has to be certified under, there's a federal drone operating part of the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, which sets out basic ways you operate it, basic certifications and such under the FAA. Okay, so it's 14 CFR Part 107. So whoever's operating the drone has to be certified under that. Back up to the videography. There is a government-operated drones, based on my research, the film and videography that is taken from them needs to be preserved anywhere between, and this is a huge time frame, anywhere between 120 days and 5 years. Okay, so there was not really a clear guidance on that, other than you have to preserve that video. Now, the thorniest question of them all is the privacy question. For those of you lawyers up on the dais there, you know this notion of expectation of privacy. So that's the standard. Is there an expectation of privacy in the park? In public parks, there's usually not an expectation of privacy. Therefore, videography and film footage in a park for security purposes or public safety purposes or government purposes, I don't think we're going to run afoul of that. If the drone goes over someone's private home and videos that, we may have issues. I don't know if I got all of your questions answered, but
I just put in a non-legal thought. It's intrusive. It buzzes. We've got houses around the park. We have water's edge right adjacent to the water. Do we need this? It's a $9,000 spend. I'm not sure really what it's for. It's not for sharks.
Well, my view is, number one, you talk about the noise. I've seen drones, I've heard drones. I don't think they're that noisy. And it's gonna be mostly over the beach and over the water, somewhat perhaps over the park. We have security cameras, which I have always felt to be inadequate for the park. This adds to that. It's a safety factor. The fact that we don't often have sharks doesn't mean that we're not going to. And if a shark alert does go out for the Sound Shore, we'll have the drones available. We have people in the water who sometimes go out. I know the open water swim people go out. You can have the drone above that as a safety factor to alert one of the lifeguards either on the boat or on the shore who might need to perform a rescue. You can have the drone above it. We've had water incidents, am I correct, Russ, where the lifeguards have had to go into the water. And this is something that will be looked at. And not to mention, you say intrusive. Well, sometimes there are crimes that are committed on the beach of one kind or another. We had an incident last year in the park, for example. There are people who may want to do illegal activities in the park, and if they know that there's a drone possibly overhead, that may deter them So for all of those reasons, I think that a drone is warranted. Frankly, I've always wanted to get a drone, I'll be honest with you, even before this. And the fact that we have it fully funded by a grant makes it economically very reasonable.
We get you one for your
I
birthday.
know.
You know it's not a personal
I have
toy,
one
right?
you can have.
I have no intention of operating it, I'm talking about safety.
To me, sorry, go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions because I know that the technology for drones has improved significantly over time. Do we know how loud? Is there a standard for the noise created by the drone?
I don't know if there's a standard, but I'm pretty sure in the specs of this device, it'll tell you what the noise.
The
noise
decibel
level
output
that-
is?
Decibel output, right.
That would be something I think we should.
Well, it
And then
certainly
the-
can't exist, it can't surpass whatever noise level the city of Rye knows what I'm saying.
There's no way it could.
And the other question would be, who do we intend to have operating the drone? Would it be the lifeguards that are operating it? I mean,
Not me.
no.
Look, that answers that question.
So my intention would be that Russell will be certified and trained, the assistant park director, the head park ranger, and frankly, I'm not thinking beyond that.
Just wanted to add one
A
more
limited,
thing to
a
the-
limited
Yes.
number of responsible individuals.
Just want to add one more thing to the legal analysis. I looked at the City of Rye code because I Googled drones in City of Rye. Years ago, there was a discussion on the city council about regulating drones.
I was on.
Were you? Nothing came of it, so there's no city ordinance. Like, if there were, I guess you would have said something there. In addition to the county, I looked at the county code. The only thing that the county regulates is flying drones over the correctional facility in the Hollow.
And I would also ask, because I know it's used as a law enforcement tool, I would assume the City of Rye Police Department has a drone.
You should have it.
Hmm?
You should have it.
Well, I was gonna say in the
I don't know.
county.
County PD definitely has drones.
And, yeah, they do. In county parks, anyone, private entities flying the drones, we require permits. Honestly, my only concern personally is that people will think they can fly their own drones
Yeah.
if they see this. That's really my only concern. I think it could be, it could be very useful. If someone goes missing, let's say, this could be very useful in having an extra tool.
If there's a kid that's missing, somebody says, kid's missing, you have you have the
You have an
drone,
extra tool.
which is a lot faster than running around on the beach.
And
I-
that happens with considerable frequency in the summer months.
I guess I have a few concerns about it. One is the sound. Actually, I was just walking to the off-leash hours of at Rye Town Park over the weekend, last weekend. Somebody was flying a drone, and it was like the loudest bee you've ever heard. My son, who's really big into aviation, could not spot it. But it was in the vicinity, and it was incredibly distracting. So nobody that's committing a crime is gonna not hear this drone and continue committing their crime to the extent that we're able to identify, anything. I think that sort of idea, this security thing, is always thrown out there as some reason that we should do all these crazy things, and I think it's, I don't think it would be effective at all. I think in terms of beach safety, I think we then are giving one of our top people, we're isolating them and putting them in one place where they're looking on a phone camera to see a large area. To me, that also, the only argument I've heard that makes sense at all is to look for a lost kid. The other thing about drones is that the conditions have to be very good in order to fly them. You cannot have a windy day, especially if you're flying this over the water, and be using your drone, or it's gonna be in the middle of the Long Island Sound very quickly. So, if we want this for a lost kid case, the couple, for the 10 times it happens over the summer, I don't want this to be something that's used on a regular basis. I don't want it flying over the open water people. There's so much monitoring of the sharks at this point that if that is the real reason that we're doing it, I think that's also, we've got Coast Guard, we have Rye Marine Patrol, we have so many people in the water providing safety support that I think, To me, this just seems superfluous and like something we don't need, and it will take up staff time, and so I don't support this. Not to mention the fact that we've had one neighbor complain about it already.
Do we know what the final cost is for the drone
The drone,
that was selected?
correct, the drone selected was a hair under $5,000.
Okay. Because I see it's a $10,000 or $9,000 limit. so-
Yeah, I just went to, made
Okay.
it simple, not to exceed that amount, but we're planning to spend considerably less. Frankly, the training program I found is offered by the Department of Homeland Security for free. So.
Is there a match
that-
on this grant?
Nope,
No match.
it's not.
You know, it's a limited opportunity. It's use it or lose it. And
Yes.
this is an opportunity to put a tool in our toolkit.
Yes.
And I just don't see the reason not to do it. They're giving it to us, and I agree with the chairman that at the very least, it can help improve security in the park.
And if we find that it doesn't work for some reason, if it's, you know, if it does take up too much staff time, or it's not useful for the purpose intended, then we can probably, you know, I'm not gonna say throw it in the wastebasket, but probably offer it to somebody else. Assuming that there's something about that in the contract. You know, like Rye City PD.
I would imagine that there's something in the state contract, I mean, that you'd have to keep it for a certain amount
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah, but I'm sure that we're not gonna make a decision for a couple of years as to
Yeah,
how, you know, how good it is.
yeah, I mean, again, my personal opinion also is it's free.
Right.
It's, you know, the worst that happens is you don't use it.
It's not free, it's $9,000 in a deficit year.
How does that affect the deficit?
It's a grant, right?
It's a
It's a
grant,
grant.
so we're.
Oh, it's
basically-
entirely grant?
It's
entirely
entirely reimbursable.
Entirely,
Yeah.
100%.
I'll make the motion if we're there at this
Yes,
juncture.
motion, please.
I'll second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
No.
Commissioner Hurd,
No.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Ferrara,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for the good discussion. Excellent points raised. Resolution authorizing the commission to engage, okay, I skipped one. Resolution awarding a contract for the repair of Rye Town Park parking lot to ELQ Industries for an amount not to exceed $25,868, which is a piggyback on the Pelham Schools contract. Debbie, just
Yeah,
briefly.
this, I actually conferred with Rye City Manager Greg Usry and Head of DPW Ryan Coyne, and your engineer, correct? That's his title. So the city of Rye is piggybacking on the Pelham contract. Our engineer, James Natarelli, walked the parking lot with Park Director Russell Gold and Victor Federico. They all agreed on the potholes that absolutely needed to be addressed. So the scope of work was refined, and despite the fact that we could have just gone with ELQ, we got two other quotes as well. ELQ came out the best, and so this is basically the bare minimum. This is not the maximum. It could, these potholes could be repaired in a much more, what's the word?
This is not a mill and pave, it's basically a hot patch.
Right, there's some cutting,
Yeah.
some, saw cutting of the pavement, there's excavation, but this is not going deep with several layers.
You're
This
not
is not the
regrading.
Cadillac repair, this is your grandfather's Chevy
And this is,
repair.
this is separate and apart from the Save the Sound plan that we
I
saw.
want to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Yes, and
So
that
this
is
is a-
actually why, because we are
Yeah,
hoping,
This is a temporary fix, so it's basically.
correct.
So it's a hot patch, as opposed to,
This is gonna buy us a couple, maybe
Years.
several years.
Yep.
The last time we patched was 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Those patches are holding. They're doing
Yeah.
fine.
but you're not doing the other project that's further out, the Save the Sound project, that's a regrading, milling, paving.
That's the gigabyte,
Correct.
GIGP, yeah.
Correct.
Let me get to that. Let's do this and then I'll speak. If there are no other comments, motion in a second, please.
I'll make a motion, sir.
Sorry, I just have a question about this. It seems like every year now because just the deterioration of the parking lot, we're doing this. Is this
Yes.
counting, where does this count sort of in the budget?
This falls under small recurring capital.
Okay. I mean,
And it's not every year.
but.
At the
almost
moment,
every
it's
year.
every other year.
Yeah,
We get the prices when we need it. And
Yeah.
that comes from looking around and saying, okay, we gotta take care of this now.
Uh,
I have, by the way, received resident complaints just this week about the state of the parking lot. When are we gonna fix it?
And I've always said that, the repair of the parking lot is a lot cheaper than trip and fall
Mm.
cases and flat tires, reimbursements,
Mhm.
and, it may look like a larger sum now, but I think in the long run,
We have a motion and a second. If there are no other comments, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jackson,
yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd,
yes.
Commissioner Klein.
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Ferrara,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. While we're on the parking lot, as I think you were advised, we did not get the Environmental Facilities Corporation grant of, what was it, 1.2 million, I think we applied for the green parking lot. Debbie and I, together with James Natarelli, our engineer, and our grant writers, met on a Zoom call with representatives from the Environmental Facilities Corporation for a debrief. Why did we not get the grant? And they told us that actually the plan was a very good plan, very competitive. One of the reasons that we didn't get the grant, they pointed right up front, is that they look at the demographic and they saw the city of Rye, and that did not give us points because of the wealth of the city compared to others. We pointed out that the park users were also from what they call justice communities, such as Portchester. We have park users from Yonkers. And they said that if we emphasize that, we will have a much better chance of getting the grant next time. In addition, they are changing their standards as to what they're looking for. And the way we presented the project from an engineering standpoint, when the grant comes out again in a couple of months, the methodology we used will gain more points than it did in this go-round. So those two factors combined, they said we will have a very good chance of getting the grant next time. So that's where we are with that. And yet, and again, the Save the Sound people who are very much in favor of it, we're gonna be looking to them to help us raise additional funds to take care of our local match. It's what, it's a 90% or 75%?
Yes.
90%, I think. Anyway, it still would have come out to a lot of money, but that's for next time. So that will not be in the capital budget for next year. Our next item is an unfortunate one, as they say. Unfortunately unfortunate. Resolution authorizing the commission to engage the services of Macri Consulting engineering firm. This has to do with the restaurant. Debbie sent out a memo earlier to the commission regarding the status of the deck on the restaurant structure, which is owned by the town and city of Rye Town Park Commission. And there is serious concern about its safety. So I've been out there personally with Debbie several times, with Vic and Russ, with Gary Gianfrancisco, our architect, on more than one occasion, and we were with Macri, the engineer, on Monday, correct, Debbie? Monday?
Correct.
Do we have any photos?
There's one in your memo.
My memo?
Yeah, I sent it around on Monday.
I saw the memo, but I didn't see the photo.
It was part of the memo.
Maybe we could pull it up on the screen.
I don't know if I can pull anything up on the screen. Let me see.
Just, I know that, just to refresh my memory, I was under the impression there was something going on at Barley that related to, like, the concession area underneath the deck,
Water,
water.
that's a different problem.
That's a different problem, okay. So at Barley, we have this is the dining, oh, wow.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a good word for it.
it's alarming.
Yeah.
For those,
If you look, Josh, if you look, I know the people can't see me.
Sorry,
This is all down now. All of this, the steel,
Is
is
that-
all rusted.
is that wood under there, or is that steel?
It's all
Mm.
rusted.
The question is, can we, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I guess, so my question, sorry, just to clarify, so we have the water issue, do we have any update on that?
No, there are a couple of things that's something else that has to be addressed. The first thing that needs to be addressed, which this consulting contract does for, all right, the proposal is there. I think it's for $5,000.
Everybody's seen the picture now?
Mhm.
So I finally have it up on my computer. If you,
That's, yeah. Thank you, yeah, it was.
Josh, you've seen it?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, Gary, so just, I'm just trying to understand the extent of the various issues at Barley.
There are a lot of issues. The main issue we're dealing with now is the issue of the deck
Right,
and the danger of people on the deck
right,
falling through
Right.
during an event.
that would be terrible.
Okay,
I
let
guess-
me finish, let
yep.
me finish. So what the proposal would be, and we brought Lou Larissa out there to look at it with Macri. And the proposal, and it has to be, and the reason that we're doing this resolution is to retain Macri to make the drawings. The proposal will be to essentially buttress the deck so that it can be used during the season. Before that occurs, which is not going to occur for a few weeks, and they have a major event in April, is we're going to cordon off 4 feet from the end of the deck in, so people cannot use it. That emergency fencing is going to be put in on Thursday. And this should take a couple of weeks to get plans, and then we'll issue an emergency contract to do the work. This is not gonna be permanent work. If there's a second phase, we will look to see what else has to be done. There's a lot of water that comes from the roof. There's water that comes in from the sound. One of the solutions to that, according to Gary Gianfrancisco, is to replace the door that's there with a flood door
Oh, okay,
to prevent the water from going in.
Because I'm assuming this, it would be salt water, right? From the
Correct.
beach, and that's corrosive.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is exactly, according to Macri, the reason that these beams are deteriorated is because of the salt water over the years
Right.
has deteriorated them. So there is a substantial possibility that the deck will need to be entirely ripped up, the beams replaced,
I would think so.
et cetera. What we're concerned with now is keeping the Barley Beach House open for the season in a safe condition. What the commission will do in the future is another decision that will have to be made based on the engineering that comes forward at that point.
So, just so I understand, and so, well, I guess there's so many engineers that we talk about. Lou Larizza, Macri, Natarelli. So this is, Macri is just one of several. When we talk about the parks architect or the parks engineer, these are people we have on retainer?
Natarelli's on retainer.
No, we don't pay him every month, we just
No.
pay
We pay
his
a,
hours.
Per,
yeah, when he's called on.
okay,
Macri is a structural engineer. This
Got it.
is what he does.
okay. So
He
it's
was the
structural.
one who supervised, for example, he worked with us on the seawall.
Yeah, I remember his
And,
name. Yep.
you know, he's very well respected in the industry. And this is
Gary,
basically,
Mr. Macri worked on the ramps, but
On the
not
ramp?
on the seawall.
I'm pardon, not, okay,
So
I misspoke. The ramps, not the seawall.
I see two contracts here. From Macri at page 144.
Well, I don't know.
Looks like one, and then page 148.
No,
is
there's
another
only, there's
letter.
I
only,
think it's just a duplicate,
That's
actually.
Yeah,
Is
the,
it?
yeah,
the initial PDF contains everything, and then things are broken out.
So this is one $5,000 item?
yes.
This is
And-
just for him to do the drawings.
This is just for the first stage. And then if he has to go further, then you have an hourly rate for what he calls the fee. The estimated fee for basic services, which is this, is 5,000.
Right.
For special services, it's we don't know what it's gonna be. It's calculated in accordance with the chart, principal, associate, et cetera.
Well, will
So-
that come back to us, Gary? And we don't know. I don't want to essentially approve a blank contract.
Actually, in the approval, or in the resolution, it says an amount not to exceed 5,000.
Right.
So I guess
We're
we're assuming,
approving, we're only approving 5,000. This, if we go further, we don't have to go further. We could say we're not gonna do it, or do something else. This is essentially, this is for an amount not to exceed $5,000 for the initial work to make sure that the deck is safe for the season. That's what this is for.
And then anything past that would come back to us
Yes.
with an estimate.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me just
His,
ask,
his proposal says exactly that, by the way.
Okay.
let me just ask, kind of moving forward, because I saw the pictures. And my first thought is liability. God forbid it were to collapse. Moving forward, and I guess this is more of a legal question, we have a 25-year lease with Bailey,
No.
Barley's Beach House?
no, 10.
No,
It's-
it's 10, 5 and
it's-
5.
5 and 5, okay, so it's a 10-year lease.
No, it's 10 years and then 5 and 5.
And then-
It's 10 and
Okay.
5 and 5.
10,
I
5 and
remember,
5.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm assuming the square footage of the deck is included in the lease?
I'd have to review that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well,
What are you thinking, that you could move them onto the beach?
No, I'm just concerned that if we don't fix it, if we're in breach of our lease.
we may be. We may have to give a concession if we don't fix, if we don't do this. We plan to do this work, this part of it. What more has to be done, I don't know. Because if the engineer determines, for example, that the structure is, after all, unsafe, then we have to look and see what the result of that would be. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, and the complicated, this is not just a deck, right? It's also the roof of the concession.
That's a separate.
The overhang,
No.
the overhang.
I mean, well, where's that picture? I mean, there's a concession underneath.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes, sorry.
And that's the deck, is the.
Yeah, I mean, that's not being affected. I mean, it's going to be used.
So you're saying this is just really, it's just an issue of the edge?
Basically, what the plan is, until we get drawings, what the plan is, if you look, and I'm sorry we don't have the thing up there. If you look at the picture itself, there are stone piers that go around,
Right.
5 or 6 of them.
Yep.
Okay? In front of each of those piers will be placed another pier with a, I don't know, what would it,
Something to support the structure.
So every time there's a column,
there's a column here, here.
supporting.
There will be a vertical structure here, and then a steel part outcropping, might be in an arch form or whatever, so that it will support the deck all the way around. And we even went to say that, here, let me
So
show
I
it
guess
to.
my question is, we're not worried about the deck collapsing in the middle of the deck, we're
No,
really just concerned about.
it's
the
only
outside.
the
That
overhang.
4 to 5, okay.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Debbie, you wanna take this back, to see what I mean? Over here, over here. So,
Sorry, yeah. You wanna move over?
so that's the plan is to have that, the engineering done, the oh, you're leaving,
Yeah, sorry, I teach a religion class at 7 o'clock and I have to be there.
okay, thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
So, the plan is to shore up the deck. What happens in the future, we're gonna have to decide what our legal liabilities and what our legal rights are, what their rights and liabilities are. Look, we're partners with them. They do a great job for the beach. We love having them. But obviously, the structure has to remain safe. So that's what we're trying to do. What happens after the season is over, we have a couple of months to look into it as a commission and to work with the concessionaire and come up with a plan of some kind. All right?
They're so integral to the success of the park at this
They're part of the
point
park.
that I think that we really have to do what, at this late date, what we have to get them into service. But I think this just speaks to the ongoing need to, have regular inspections and preventative maintenance, which is, when you're an elected official, it's always easy to kick the can down the road on costs that people don't see the value in, the surface value in, but it's really important because otherwise you end up with multiple issues like this.
Well, I mean, this, before we get to the vote, the problem is that there are two problems. One, and they both have to deal with water. One is the water because it's on the beach and it's seawater. The other is the water that comes from the rain and goes down the downspouts. The downspouts are leading into virtually nothing. They just, yes, Jason, no, they just end and the water goes on the deck and seeps in. So there's a water problem underneath the main part as well. How serious that is, we do not know. So that's the next stage. So with that, may I, unless there are other questions, may I have a motion and a second?
I'll give you a motion, Mr. President.
You got
Second.
Okay, Debbie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd, Commissioner Klein,
I think that was a question, yes.
She's praying.
that's a
she
yes
gets
vote. Acting Commissioner Ferrara,
that. Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Next resolution is a contract to re-roof the pavilions at Rye Town Park, both pavilions. And the low bidder was Alden Bailey. And unfortunately, as with the next resolution, we have a $250,000 grant that was accomplished through the offices of Assemblyman Otis, through the SAM program. The low bidder was $488,000, and the high bidder was almost 1.5 million, so there's quite a spread. It is recommended, the architect recommends Alden Bailey as very highly qualified, and apparently the roof manufacturer is familiar with them, so this is the correct choice. On this one, I have spoken with the architect, and he's spoken with the contractor, and I've also spoken with Assemblyman Otis. I would like to enter into this contract for an amount not to exceed the low bid. The contractor has agreed that if we only do one of the pavilions, he would do it for a certain price. We have to do one full pavilion, but there's work that needs to be done on the second pavilion that's essential. And the price for that, I believe, would be $295,000, which is a lot less than $488,000. The reason I spoke to Assemblyman Otis is that the Dormitory Authority, which monitors the program, administers the program, has found that a lot of the grants issued, the amounts of the bid exceeded the prior estimates, so they're not unfamiliar with this. Assemblyman Otis spoke to the Ways and Means Committee's people, and what I would propose to do, if it is permitted, and I don't know if it's permitted yet, would be to go out for another grant application for the second pavilion next year. It will be a year before we get it, if we get it. But meanwhile, we could do the first pavilion and hopefully save money if we can get it. But I would like to approve the full amount at this point with the understanding that we will try to get a second grant to do that.
Gary, I have not taken this to the Rye City Council nor any of the following stuff. I would ask that all of this be deferred so that I can do that. Otherwise, I can't vote on it. Look, you made a presentation to the Rye City Council, and we knew what grant values were, we knew what estimates were, we understood that estimates might exceed, but the estimates have doubled the cost.
And that's what's been happening.
I understand that's what's been
Josh,
happening,
Josh,
but from a
Josh,
financial control
Josh, let me
perspective-
finish. Because this is not as essential as the next one. I will agree to put the consideration of this resolution off till next month. I cannot do that with the second one, because we risk not opening the beach.
With respect to, I appreciate that with respect to the first. With respect to the second, there was an alternative that I asked you to try to pursue, and you were simply negative with respect to it. I'd like to bring it up, and that is, we were doing the tunnel bathrooms because we recognized that we were going to do the bathhouse interior eventually, but that the cost was very high. We didn't have a grant yet to take us at least part way. And to fix the access from the beach into those bathrooms required repairing the internal staircase, which would have cost us $100,000 just for the stairs. So now and We heard from the health department last year that they were not happy with the bathhouse interior bathroom, but the reason that was cited last year was because it did not have hot water. And apparently they said, well, go ahead, we can get another year out of it, but you're going to do the tunnel bathrooms, right? And we thought we would be doing the tunnel bathrooms. Now we're in a situation where the price of the tunnel bathrooms has doubled. We have a grant for the tunnel bathrooms. My question was, can we talk to Otis, Albany? Can we get that money applied to fix the tunnel staircase, approximately $100,000, perhaps more now, and save the rest of that money, apply some of it to fixing the hot water situation in the bathhouse interior, and apply any remainder to the bathhouse interior, because we're going to be underwater on that one too. We have about a $500,000 grant pending, and we have $500,000 from the county, right, for something
Yeah.
pending, and then we have
I'll bring that up in a minute.
and then we have an all-in cost that I'm not sure what the price is today, but it certainly exceeds that grant. So may I finish? So my proposition is, let's see if we can not have so many bathrooms, but have a high-quality bathhouse interior bathroom with good access from the beach, as access from the beach formerly was. And let's not bust the bank on the tunnel bathroom now. Let's see if the health department will give us another year.
Hold it,
I just want to, with regard to reducing the number of bathroom facilities, I've been specifically instructed by the Department of Health that if we change the number of bathroom fixtures, we will then have to go through an entire recertification process, and we would not be in compliance with current codes. That would be a very bright line.
I'm not talking about changing a number of fixtures.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you just said reduce the number of bathrooms.
And at the end of the day, not have both $500,000 worth of... Let me finish my sentence, please. Not have $500,000 worth of tunnel bathrooms and whatever it's going to be, $800,000 worth of bathhouse interior bathrooms.
First of all, did you read the email that I sent in response to your very questions that you asked now?
Yeah, it was no and no, and did
Yeah.
you
Okay,
make
so
the calls?
let me explain it publicly then, okay? Number one, as Debbie indicated, we had violations, several violations. A couple of them were very easy to fix. We had to put hot water heaters in the north end bathrooms. Done. With regard to this bathroom, the reason that we're doing the tunnel beach level bathrooms is the original thought was to replace the staircase at a cost of a minimum of $100,000, and to fix the bathroom, because not only was there not hot water, which is easy enough to fix, but we have, the doors are falling down. The violation also says it has to be repainted. And if we would do this work, the question is, would we be able to have a bathroom that is certified by the Department of Health and even approved by the building department? Because the bathroom itself that we would now be renovating would not be ADA compliant because we don't have any ADA stalls in the bathroom. In addition, we would be putting money into a staircase to a place which the bathroom would now be non-ADA compliant, because nobody with a handicap would be able to use the bathroom. It is highly unlikely that if we would ask the state for a grant, that they would give us a grant for a bathroom that's non-accessible, and it probably violates the law when you're gonna do a reconstruction, to not make it a public facility, non-ADA compliant, which is a goal that we've had since the very beginning, to make every facility, at least in the town of Rye, and with which we're affiliated, i.e. Rye Town Park, to be accessible. That's why we did the ramps and the path, why we're doing the main bathhouse. So the fact of the matter is that unless we're also prepared to put an elevator in addition to the staircase, to make it ADA compliant, at a cost of another $200,000 or so, it's not going to be feasible. And if we don't do it by this, right now, we have to get a permit, in another 2 months or so, to open the beach. And if we're going to go this route, it's very likely Department of Health says no. Now, the number of fixtures is important because they allowed us to open last year with a reduced number of fixtures. They made us put up signs pointing to every bathroom in the beach so people would have access. Am I correct, Debbie?
Yes.
Every bathroom had to have a sign pointed to it so that people can access it. We even redesigned, when we designed the beach level bathroom, the first design was rejected because it did not have the same number of fixtures as the bathroom upstairs. So somehow we would have to have, even if we renovated it, we'd have to have make an ADA bathroom with the same number of fixtures. The Department of Health looks and counts the fixtures. So,
Gary, let me ask you a question or two. Is the bathhouse interior bathroom for $750,000, $800,000, is that going to be an ADA compliant bathroom?
yes.
Okay. So we're going to have 2 ADA compliant bathrooms. We're going to have one down at the beach tunnel and another one upstairs. My proposal is we see if the Department of Health will give us another year, and whatever waiver they gave us last year, as against our achieving a wonderful bathhouse interior bathroom, but not requiring us to spend more than $500,000 on tunnel level bathrooms that will also be ADA compliant. So we will have this tremendous suite of bathrooms. We'll have $1.3 million, $1.4 million worth of bathrooms when we get to the end of the next 2 or 3 years, and we don't need them.
I disagree that we don't need them. First of all, the decrepit bathrooms that we have upstairs now are in fact ADA compliant in some way. They each have one ADA stall. The fact is that if we're going to do the plan that you suggest, we're going to do it without any grant funding, none. So it's going to cost us, probably $200,000 anyway to have a non-accessible bathroom. For virtually the same amount of money, we'll have a tunnel level bathroom that's accessible for all. I just feel very strong.
Why do you say no grant funding?
Because we're not going to get it, Josh.
That's
Okay?
a question
No.
I'd like us to ask.
Mr. Mayor, in my experience, and we've dealt with many millions of dollars worth of grants in Portchester. In the state of New York, grants are not easily fungible, and they are administered by a bureaucracy that moves tediously slowly, and is always inclined to say no. Furthermore, they don't like the idea of issuing grants that are not applicable to shovel-ready projects. They would rather give the money elsewhere that's going to find immediate use than to see it stick around, so to speak. I hear you. I sympathize with your point of view. Before I became a trustee in the village of Portchester, which I'm not anymore, I served a couple of terms and I stepped down. But before I served, I thought exactly as you did and asked the same kind of questions that you're asking, because they are sensible private sector questions. But you
I've been mayor for 6 years.
I understand.
These-
I understand, but I've come to the knowledge that it just doesn't work that way, especially here in the state of New York. And I think we're pretty much, well, again, there's no preventative maintenance here over the years, and we're pretty much up against the wall, and we're in a use it or lose it situation.
I think that we've heard that with respect to the pavilion roofs, there's been what sounded like a productive conversation with Assemblyman Otis, and seemingly a productive avenue with the dormitory authority. My ask here is that we ask.
The reason that it could be productive with the pavilion is because we're dealing with 2 pavilions. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do the second one. That's why it's important to fund the full amount in case we can't, because the second pavilion will, A, cost more than doing one, because the contract, first of all, prices are going to go up. Secondly, they're going to have a whole new bid process. And third, that'll involve new bonding. So I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. I'm willing to hold off on it because I think we have a shot. We have no shot at this, okay? We have a lot of experience with grants. One of the reasons we're able to get grants is because when we apply for a grant, when we get a grant, we do the work immediately. And we just did got a grant up at Crawford Park. It was awarded some time ago. We broke ground on it. And Senator Mayer, who was able to get us that grant, was surprised that we could get into the ground so fast after we signed the contract. Once we sign the contract with the state, it's a month or two, and it's out to bid, and we're in the ground. The fact is that when you can show the granting authority that it's shovel-ready, you do the work, you get the grants. If we don't do this, I guarantee you, first of all, Senator Mayer will look bad. She got us a grant, we're going to turn it back. Okay, because it's not the same project. In order to get a grant, they look at it, they not only, it has to go through the legislature and the dormitory authority. And they look it over with a fine-tooth comb. And if you don't do what you say you're going to do, your chances of getting grants again are diminished. So I know you have your view, and I know you want to talk to the council. And as I say, I'm willing to put off the pavilion roofs. I'm not willing to put this off. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Debbie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn.
Abstain.
Commissioner Hurd is absent. Commissioner Klein.
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Ferrara.
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
This is back to the one that we're putting off. How long do the bids stay good for? Do you know the bids?
It'll be good for a couple of months.
Okay.
Well, that's date certain next meeting, yes?
It's going to be our next meeting.
Yeah.
As I say, I hope to have a, more definitive answer, but if not, I mean, the work obviously has to be done. Look, nobody wants to spend more than they have to spend.
Are you taking any action on the first one in terms of holding off on it, or are you just skipping
What?
on the roofs?
It's gonna be on the agenda next month.
So you're
Severing it.
tabling it or something?
Table to date certain?
Yeah, to,
Do you need a motion for that?
no. We're not gonna act on it. You know, I know, before we get to the budget, and I know there are some questions on the budget. We all, as elected and some appointed officials, and Lindsay, even though you're an appointed official, you were an elected official, and I know that you scrutinize budgets very, very, very carefully, much to my chagrin sometimes. What are we talking about in terms of the burden that the residents of the town and the city have for Rye Town Park? We have an expenditure of what, 1.6 million projected, 1.7 million for the park. What kind of a burden is that on the taxpayers? Well, one thing we try to do with the budget is to break even. And we break even, we try to minimize our expenditures, keeping in mind that we need to serve the park as best we can, provide the best service to our residents and our non-resident users. The park generates a certain amount of income. So a lot of it is weather dependent, as we all know. We get income from permit fees, from beach fees, from parking fees, from the concession agreement at the restaurant, renting the pavilions, etc. Does anybody know what the market value is of the town of Rye and city of Rye combined?
It's about 20 billion.
It is almost 21 billion.
I do this for.
I had my assessor look up some figures. With a market value of almost $21 billion. If we, as a commission, spend $2 million, not 1.6, spend $2 million on the park and received no money from permit fees, beach fees, the restaurant, etc., but simply ask the taxpayers to bear that burden. Does anybody know, by the way, Josh, what is the taxable value, the average home in the city of Rye? Found that, 500, 750?
No, it's close to 2 million.
2 million, okay. The average home is 2 billion?
Yes.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot lower than that in Portchester. The average, okay. If you had a home or any property worth $1 million and the tax and the budget expenditure for the park was $2 million, the cost to that taxpayer with a home of $1 million would be, anybody want to guess? You're the mathematician.
$14.
No. You want to guess?
Gary, I'm really not interested
Well, I
in the
am.
discussion.
Well, I'm making a point. I'm making a point at
And my
how
point
much,
is
excuse me,
we-
I'm talking.
Gary,
Excuse
control
me, Josh.
yourself, please.
I'm under control. I'm speaking. The tax on such a home would be 10 cents. 10 cents. So when we are discussing the budget. We need to keep in mind that we're providing a valuable service for the residents of the town of Rye and the city of Rye and those who visit us. And the cost is very reasonable, even if we didn't have income from permits and other fees. So,
In Rye, we work on the basis of a budget. We invited you into our budget sessions. We try very hard to control costs and to control our taxes, which our residents ask us to do. And we find ourselves repeatedly in the park situation with unanticipated costs thrown at us without the ability even to take them to the city council.
every time that we've had these capital discussions, you've always said, and I've never disputed it, that you need to take it to the city council. This has been on the books. I understand that you have a certain position, and I understand that you, as I do, as the town supervisor, and as Frank did as a trustee, and as Lindsay did as a trustee, and as Jason does as a mayor, to limit the cost as much as possible while providing services. Right now, this budget that is now before us was originally proposed in November, and you're correct. We had meetings, you and I and Debbie and Emily with Greg Usry, to talk about how we can align the Park Commission budget with the budget process of the city of Rye, which is on an annual basis, and the town of Rye, which is an annual basis. Now we are in March. We are past the Ides of March, and we don't have a budget because we've been honing it and honing it and honing it. And we've answered questions, Debbie has answered questions, and the deficit, the original proposed deficit, I think was it close to 200,000?
It was certainly about $117,000.
Okay, and now it's down to 27?
28.
28,000. And this is a weather-dependent budget. If the weather is nice, there will be no deficit. If the weather is terrible, there will be a larger deficit. That's the way it is. A budget is a guide. It's not the Bible. We use it to guide us in what we're going to do, how much we're going to spend, and what we expect to receive in revenue. And that's what's before us. So I'd like to vote on the budget. I know there will be comments. So let's first take a motion in a second, and then we'll take comments. Please, a motion in a second.
Just before we get there, you seemed to disregard the fact that, I mean, we've gone from these extra items to the budget, but I just want to underscore that on the capital items we're looking at, the cost doubled in the past week or so. And items that were not supposed to have cost much in excess of the grants that we were told we had to cover them proved to be only to get us halfway there. I think that's material. I'll just leave it there.
You mentioned one other thing, the main bathrooms. We are hoping that we'll only have a modest expense for that. We have a grant for half of the, I say, projected costs, and I say this every time we talk about grants and estimates. It's an estimate. The numbers are not real until the bids come in. And we really got hit in the face with these two items today. That's not happened before, not to this extent. The county has placed, as I mentioned before, in its capital budget, an amount sufficient to cover our projected local match for the state money. I'm trying to move that forward. It is a administrative process that ultimately goes to the Board of Legislators, and I hope that by next month, I will have something definite to report where that the main bathhouse bathrooms, we can be confident will not be will not have 427,000 of local money, and hopefully we will be able to save that. And thank you to our two legislators for getting it in the capital budget, Nancy Barr and Catherine Parker. So that's where that goes. We haven't heard from on a lot of grants. The wall at Rye Town Park, the retaining wall near the bathhouse, is subject to an application that we're waiting to hear on from the National Park Service. I'm hopeful. We will also be putting in for capital work with our congressional representatives for the 25 fiscal year. That's going to be submitted in about 2 weeks. And that will hopefully require no match. Okay. Did we have a motion in a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay. Discussion, Josh?
Yeah, well, let me just begin with the bathhouse interior, $850,000, and the retaining wall, $467,000. In each case, any discussions that we've had of these have presumed some grant support. We have no grant support showing. I can't possibly vote for these expenditures on this basis. If you want the city of Rye on board with these things, then I will have to have discussions with the city council, but there's just no way I can vote on $850,000 worth of bathrooms and the full retaining wall expense. Just can't do it. Oh, well, it's part of the budget, right?
I just wanted to interject, I'm sorry to interrupt, but on page 31 of the budget that's in your packet that was recirculated this afternoon, we have a grant-funded projects schedule, and the $850,000 is there as being covered by grants.
Except we don't have the grant.
We
have.
We do.
We do.
I thought you said it still needs legislative approval and you're trying to move it forward.
That's on half of it. That's the second half. We got a 50% grant from the state. That's done. We're trying to move the other 50% through the county, which we're very hopeful we will do in the next month or two. In either case, this work is not going to be done immediately. We hope that it'll be done for the 25 season.
Well, then let's please take it out of this budget, and then I don't have a problem with it. I'd appreciate that. As I recall, our conversations about this always were that we're looking at 5 years' worth of work, not...
Well, the bathhouse interior, we'll see when and if we get it, the second half of it. We've been talking about the bathhouse interior for years.
talking about it is
And I
is
submitted to you, to your council, last year, when I appeared before it, the capital plans that we had for the park. That was in it. All of this was in it. There's no surprise here. The only surprise that has happened is the amount of the actual bid for work that was listed in that presentation. There's nothing in this budget that was not listed in the presentation last year before you passed your budget. None of it is a surprise. If there will be a surprise on the bathhouse, it will be if perhaps the bids come out higher than expected, and they may not. I don't recall, Debbie, do you recall in my presentation whether I said that we're gonna get the second half from the county? I don't recall. Certainly, we have the grant from the state for 50%. This is all of public record. There's no surprises. The TAP grant, which we haven't gotten word yet, was in there. The retaining wall was in there. The retaining wall we do not propose to do until we get grants, unless it falls down. And your building inspector may come by and say, you gotta fix it, and without a grant. But we don't intend to do it without a grant.
And we were gonna try to reduce the $850,000 for the bathhouse interior, and we've talked about that for more than 2 years.
We are planning to do that work with grant money in total.
Can I just interject for a second? And this is one of the few times I'll defend Gary. When we talk about,
This is a shock.
I know, because usually it's the other way around. When we talk about these capital improvements, the beach level bathroom, we knew during the summer of last year that the health department was threatening to close us down if we did not fix it. We had seen this coming a mile away, for lack of a better term. When we talk about the additional bathrooms, the bathhouse, the upper level bathrooms, we have been discussing this, and I'm just looking at the timeline. I'm assuming that from reading this capital budget here, when you say fiscal year 2024, you're not going to be doing both bathrooms this summer when the park's open.
No.
So I'm assuming that the construction would begin at the end of the year for the upper level bathrooms?
Yes.
Oh, certainly the upper level.
So-
Since the lower level is blocked and not being used, it's
Yeah.
possible that construction could start sooner.
Okay, but the time to pay for that work would not come until fiscal year 2025 for the city, correct?
Right.
To even out. So there is time to plan.
In the best of circumstances, if we got the county grant, and if we could go out to bid over the summer, the best of circumstances would be to start the work after the beach was closed. And they won't be open for the winter as they usually are. We probably have to put porta potties in the winter for the guests that use the beach during that period of time. And we would hope that the construction could be done in 6 months or so to be open when the beach opened in the spring of '25. That's in the best of circumstances.
And now I'm going to pull Josh into this conversation with, or Jason into this conversation with his experience with parks. How often do bids come back lower without a significant reduction in scope over time?
How often do bids come back lower?
Yeah.
Never.
Okay, so, I mean, we could try, but we would be significantly reducing the scope of the work.
Yeah.
And,
Well, you go out to bid with the work that you want done. And then, as I'm suggesting is possible with the pavilions, at that point, if there's work that would be substantially in excess, then yeah, we'd have to reduce the scope. Or figure something out, and that's for the commission to decide.
I just,
And I'm not, look, I'm not saying that this is, without the input from the Rye City Council as well, but you know, there's certain work that just has to be done. And we're trying to do it with the least expense, especially of our local tax dollars, as possible.
I mean, my concern is, and I've sat here I was first elected in 2015, so more than 8 years, and we have discussed the bathhouses, we've discussed the ground level bathrooms, and I've seen over time a significant or an exponential increase in the overall cost of these projects. And as we sit here and we talk year after year, they go up hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at this point, I would say that the ground level or the beach level bathrooms are imperative to the functioning of the park this summer. The accessibility of ground level bathrooms, I think, is key for a Department of Health approval, suitable bathrooms. And as I look at the upper level bathhouse, I see that more of an overall park function throughout the year. That's not used just by beachgoers where the beach level bathroom is, but that's used by people who walk their dog at the park, people who go in the fall for a stroll, people who use the restaurant or attend the different various events that are hosted by Barley Beach House. So we're, you know, while we are looking at doing 2 separate bathrooms, I think they do serve, to a large extent, 2 separate functions. And that would be my argument. And the other thing I'm just going to reiterate is the importance of the retaining wall. We've seen that happen last summer.
It's been deteriorating.
Well, it's been deteriorating for hundreds of years, or, you know, at least over 100 years. But this, you know, we had the structural issues with it beginning in the summer, correct?
I think this is our second, possibly our third year with those parking spaces out of commission. So it's actually been at least 2 years.
Okay, and that's loss in revenue, which if we keep kicking the can down the road for as long as we've been kicking the bathhouses down the road, you know, would be close to, I'm not saying would overcome, but would be a significant amount or a significant portion of what we're looking to spend on renovating, correct? I just wanted to make those points because, again, I understand the need for fiscal responsibility, keeping the costs low for the taxpayers, but I think we're being, to some extent, the longer we kick the can down the road with this aging infrastructure, the more we're going to be paying in the long run.
All right, thank you. Jason, anything?
No, I mean, my only comment would be just on the budget itself. You know, I think we're, you know, at this point, we're into March. We're getting very close to the time when we're getting ready to open and getting everything ready. You know, being an elected official in Rybrook, you know, we rely very heavily on our staff, and I think we do the same here. That we rely heavily on the staff to really, that as a board, we have to set the tone of what we're looking for in a budget, but it's really up to the staff to then hone that budget and get it to where they think it needs to be in order to properly run a facility. And you know, I think with this budget, we're there. That this is what we're looking to do. We know we're going to run the park. We're not going to shut it down. We're not going to shut down operations for the summer. You know, we'd like to get this as close as possible, obviously, to a balanced budget, and a lot of that is in Mother Nature's hands. That, you know, we really are hoping for some good weather this summer. Hopefully we don't get a rerun of last summer where it rains every weekends and only on weekends for some reason. You know, so with regards to the budget itself, I think the time has come to move forward. In relation to anything else that was mentioned, the capital projects, you know, I think Lindsay has a great point that, you know, the further you push something off, the more expensive it's going to be. And not only just that bids get higher, there's more work that needs to be done at that point. You know, the sooner you get something fixed than done, you know, obviously exterior structures more than interior structures in that sense. You know, My other comment I said earlier, just wondering about the bids and whether they'd still be good if we pushed it off. Those are my comments.
Debbie, can you tell us what the 8.6% admin increase covers? Is that just the guy going from park attendant supervisor to assistant director?
The assistant park director, that salary came out of the park attendant line entirely. That's why the park attendant line dropped. That's one of the reasons that the park attendant line, salary line dropped by 24%, in addition to shrinking headcount. And his salary, the allocation for Rye Town Park is now in the director's line.
But,
The
yes,
administrative, you're asking about the
8.6.
percent for administrative costs. That's office support. So that would be the year-over-year salary increases of the town staff. That would be the fee on the, basically, and the addition, so let me restate, sorry, that would be the year-over-year increase of the town staff, the bookkeeper, the office assistant, my salary, as well as the addition of the administrative intern who has been continuing to work through the year, one morning a week, doing base level grants administration, and she's accepted the full-time offer to become a full-time employee as of July 1st. So her salary would then be full-time at that point and change.
And that's included.
Yes.
So isn't she doing the work, though, that Jenny and Alone did? And weren't they paid for that
Yes,
work?
but not exclusively that. But that is a big portion of what her assignment will be. There will be others as well. For example, last summer, one of the grants that we had from the CDBG grant was for beach-ready wheelchairs. And to deploy the wheelchairs, we needed to have a completely thought-through program. In fact, that was made a priority by this park commission when we announced that we had the grant, and we were considering how to go about not only putting in the beach mats, but also the wheelchairs. So the research of what best practices are, the development of the program, the interviewing stakeholders to develop the waiver, and the sensibilities, training for the park staff on how to handle a request for the beach wheelchair, the online reservation system. That entire program, soup to nuts, was handled by the intern. So things, obviously, that's a one and done. We're good, but those types of assignments will be assigned, as well as she'll be working on procurement as well, writing RFPs, procurement for the beach as well, and backing me up.
Okay, I don't think I understand the 8.6% increase. I'm prepared to let that slide since some portion of it I can understand, but I would like to ask you about page 53, which shows the $850,000 bathroom as fully grant funded.
So that's the $850,000 that we've been talking about, this this evening.
But we don't have $850,000 in grant funding. We have a state grant, and we're looking for county money as well.
So as I understand it, that $427,000 is in the county budget? It's in the budget. What we are being asked to now is to work through the administration aspect, which we are doing.
It still requires the legislative approval, is that right?
Requires a legislative approval of a bond issue that they always do when they give these kinds of grants. Probably rolled into another bond when the county goes out for bonding, but it requires a resolution from the legislature. It has the support of the administration, the county executive, the deputy county executive, etc. It has the support of our legislators. It's in the capital budget. It's a question of taking the steps to get to a grant contract, which is what the goal is, and which hopefully we will have in a month or two. Don't forget, on any of these projects, any of them, the fact that it's in the budget still requires the awarding of a contract. And any contract that comes, that is to be awarded comes before the commission. Just like the bids that we discussed today. At some point, somebody will bid on the bathroom interior, and it'll come before us. And it may be $850,000, and it may be $900,000, and we have a decision to make. We knew going in that we were going to apply for the grant. We've tried to get a grant to go do all of this several times. We've gotten partial grants. That's how we did, for example, the windows, the exterior, all of those things. We've combined parks through the CFA, CDBG, other grants. You know, it's like a smorgasbord of grants that we've been going after, one after the other, and so far we've been relatively successful. As I said earlier, we did not get the parking lot grant. We'll go after that again, and we'll excuse me, we'll hopefully we'll be able to get the complete funding for the bathhouse interior, which is very much needed. And we'll be able to go forward with that for next year. I think, Josh, that will be in the city and town's 2025 budget for whatever it is. And we'll have more definite knowledge at that time. So, with that, can we call the roll on the budget, please?
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn.
Abstain.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir.
Abstain.
Abstain. Commissioner Hurd, absent. Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Ferrara,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. President, if I just may give compliments to staff on a very professionally presented budget and a very nice job. You know, Mayor Klein pointed out that elected officials, part-time elected officials, as many of us are or were, rely heavily on staff, and you've done a very nice job, you and your team. So
Thank you.
my thanks to you.
On behalf of a really terrific team, I appreciate your words very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anything? Motion to adjourn?
So,
So moved.
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.